For those of you watching, welcome to another edition of Tech School. Today we have David Schmidt on, and I'll let him and let Curling kind of go through their fireside chat, and we'll learn a little bit more about David and hopefully gain some awesome insight from him. If you guys are watching this in real time, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you guys have questions, if you're watching this on YouTube or even on Zoom, if you guys have questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, and we can just answer in real time while we do this kind of Q&A thing. So I'll let you take it, Curly.
Yeah, that's great. David, I was looking at your bio. I'll read part of it now, but the one interesting thing about David in some ways that he's one of those people that actually in some ways is like this kind of, we sometimes say ecosystem builder or this community builder. When I was first at University Club, everybody said, you got to talk to David. Okay, all right. But one thing that I really appreciate too, David, just how you always have been very generous and like supportive of, it doesn't matter what industry you're in or things of that nature. David's always been a person that actually has done a lot of different things that typically I've always thought about when people who are like you, David, are these kind of ecosystem builders, community builders, that it actually brings this kind of like holistic way of how you meet people, right? So you can talk a little bit about, you have your Mentor 360, there was like Distinguished Speaker Series. There's a lot of things that you did that I've kind of learned about. Okay, wow, that's how actually you kind of can build this community, but also in some ways bring out a lot more, I guess, insights for people, right? And that most people probably don't think about, is that the right way to actually have a strategy? Well, I think it's just being authentic about you really want to help people. I think that's what it is.
Thank you. True.
Your bio has David Schmidt is ranked nationally as a real estate advisor representing business owners and buyers. The Schmidt Group will guarantee to save your company big dollars. I like the big dollars. I think I should do that. I should always use that word. Negotiating your next lease or purchase. The Schmidt Group specializes in finding real great off-market commercial properties and can assist owners with any real estate process, from finding a new location to modifying a current lease or purchasing an investment property for one of your businesses to occupy. Let's talk about that. I think there's some questions that you want to go over, and we can go over that. But can you tell me a little bit, David, like how you started? Your story was actually really good.
Yeah, I actually started at a tender age of 40. Had a major change after being in corporate America and trying my hand at retailing for a while. That started out with a big bang and ended with a big bang. So I decided to go into real estate. It's really interesting. I was in Dallas, Texas, living there, working there, looking to get into real estate. And my first interview was with a company called Swearingen. And the general manager broke away from a meeting to talk to me. And I was probably at that time 10, 12 years older than most people getting into commercial real estate. And he said to me, I just came from a meeting. We got 20 brokers here, and every one of these brokers are making over $1 million a year, 1984. So my first reaction was, okay, hey, I'll do what I have to do for that. He said, but we're not hiring. I said, okay. So I left that, then went to a company called Henry S. Miller. Henry S. Miller at that time was doing $2 billion a year, in half of it in commercial real estate, half of it in residential. So their philosophy was a little bit different. They were hiring new people like myself with no experience, and they were giving us $1,000 a month against future commission. So I'm kind of, as an educated person, I'm trying to figure out why I want to jump for $12,000 a month when this other company that wasn't hiring me, all these guys making $1 million. Well, anyway, long story short, I went to work for Henry S. Miller in their office division, quickly rose to manager of the office division, managed 22 people in various disciplines. But in 1984, Dallas had overdeveloped through monies from the S&Ls at that point, had developed, they rebuilt their Class A office space by 3 times. So they had over 150 million square feet, which I think is more than we still have in San Diego, to give you a comparison, of Class A office space. And they needed, the traditional way of getting rid of space or marketing space was through national companies. But this was a turning point in real estate history, and the national companies didn't have the resources to fill up buildings. So an industry was created that I actually helped pioneer in 1984 with Roger Staubach. In case you don't know Roger, he was famous. He was, when he played football for the Dallas Cowboys, he was considered God in Texas. And Roger and I developed the industry of tenant representation. So we represent business owners. We actually are a non-cost to our clients. We act as a off-site real estate department that doesn't present the cost to our clients. And we bring to them what is now, fast forward, 36 years of being in the tenant rep industry, being a landlord myself here in San Diego and in Texas. So I understand both sides of the equation. And because of that experience, I'm able to conclude a lot of leases or purchases for clients.
Now, I know we've been talking back and forth, David, too, like how this time is a little bit different, even for startups, right? On how they're using space. For instance, our cohort right now, they were all given space at a local, we call it San Marcos cohort place, a co-working place, right? That was actually kind of, in some ways, kind of trending for some of those startups, is doing co-working, understanding what that looks like. I know you, in a sense, have looked at some of that, or even helped some of the startups look at even co-working and places like that. What's some of your advice on that, and what's maybe your experience with some of that?
Well, it's an interesting time, and I have a lot of empathy for businesses that are starting up in the middle of COVID. And I myself is starting up a new business with a partner. So, I understand the anxiety and frustrations that they're faced. Prior to, just before, actually, I should say just before this meeting, I got an email from a doctor who has been working along with his associate in one of the hospitals, a psychiatrist, and came recommended by a psychiatrist client of mine. I just use them. They're just a client.
Okay, got it.
So he said that I guess this is kind of a new trend that may be happening, is that this coexisting of offices within medical facilities or college facilities may be coming to an end. And what he was explaining to me in his email was that they need their own space now. So we deal with a lot of new businesses, a lot of startups. They don't really understand the financial impact of the cost to lease space upon their business. They seem to be very good, as most of us are in our own field, but not necessarily good when it comes to making decisions in areas that we don't have expertise. So we offer that expertise. Our fees are paid, ironically, by the landlord or the seller of a property. So again, it's a service that is free, and I shudder when I say that, because normally anything that's free doesn't have any value, but we do bring a lot of value to the table. And we have, because of compliments that we've gotten from a lot of our clients, we were actually told that we needed to go on Yelp and get Yelp comments, which very few real estate people are doing. So we have some very nice, it's a good way to go in there and just look up the Schmidt Group and see what people say. But I think for the most part, our clients do appreciate what we bring to the table for them. There's a clarity and a better understanding of what the market really is.
I like how you use the word clarity, because David, that's one of maybe your superpowers. Sometimes when you're breaking things down, certain things, even when me and you were on the same board, the clarity of it. Can you give us like maybe one scenario how you helped the group before, and that could help the cohort?
Yeah, I got a company that came to me, and basically my business today is referral. Thank goodness we don't have to, market or call. But it was a startup, a casino school, and we actually had them. We had a place picked out, everything was done, then COVID hit and they just went dark. So they decided to come back into the market, and the space that we originally had for them was not available. So we researched, some of the areas around Scripps and Miramar for them that we actually found a perfect place. So what kind of clarity we brought to the table is the first thing that landlords want to know is what is the use. And they also, secondly, then want to know what is your financial capabilities, even though you are a startup. And as a startup, usually those capabilities are not that great. You have a couple of grand in the bank, maybe a lot more than most people. That's wonderful, but not enough to cover. Landlords want to make sure that you are going to be able to live up to your commitment on the lease. So we help them, fortify their financial statement so it looks a lot healthier than it may be. And we do that because we know the client, we know their business model. We know once they get up and running, they're going to be very successful. But if you can't get through the interview stage, you lose. So we become the makeup artist for our clients, and it becomes like a beauty contest. With COVID, it makes it a little bit more challenging, because landlords they go back to the use, and if it's a use that is untypical for their business, they don't understand it. So you need to bring clarity. In this case, our client insisted they wanted to go to the city of San Diego to talk to them that zoning, that they would be approved under the zoning laws to occupy one of the properties we sent to them. I advised them against it because the city, again, has very limited understanding of businesses, lumped into categories. So based on the advice I gave them, they did not go to the city and did not create a major issue. And to amplify that a little bit, we have put 3 or 4 churches in and around Miramar Road area. Churches, by definition, must be approved by Miramar Air Force Base because of potential collateral damage. So there's a 6 to 8 month process in getting approved and about a cost of $60,000, which most churches don't have $60,000 just to do for filing fees with Miramar Air Force Base.
Sure.
So we tell our church clients that what they need to do, and this is where the wisdom comes in and experience, that they need to be a meeting hall, a meeting group. They could have a cross on the wall. They could meet on Sundays, but their classification is not church. So we've successfully put them in. They're very happy. They're doing business. Of course, now with COVID, they got other problems because they're limited by the amount of people that they can have. So they too are doing Zoom. But I don't want to get off the subject, but the issue is that if you don't know what you're doing, go through the process, you're gonna get into trouble.
No, I think I was on topic, David. I like the stories. You when we're always hanging out, you always give me all these little anecdotes where are always great, and that's why I remember.
The only way I remember things is stories.
It's always good. I do have a few more questions, but I open up to Stephen. Stephen, you have a question for David?
Yeah, I got a quick question for you, David. So when you have a client that comes to you and let's say they need some sort of they're searching for some sort of commercial real estate space, right? Could be for their business, for their startup, maybe they need warehouse space, whatever it may be. Do you usually have to have a timeline in mind in terms of how long that search, usually takes, right? To find the right space? Do you have people that come to you or businesses that come to you saying that, hey, they'd like to be able to have this done by this date? And do you ever come back and say, hey, that's not feasible? Or, hey, we think we could figure that out in a lot faster than you think? Or is there usually a timeline with some of these decisions?
There always is. And what we try to do is work with reality and transparency. And we're fully transparent. There is nothing that we, hide from our clients. They get copies of our LOIs. Everything we present on behalf is done in writing. So there's no guesswork or anything. So if a client is unrealistic, and I do an interview process with each client as they do an interview process. And as they come to me through recommendation, my response to them is that, I was able to help the person that recommended them, but may not necessarily be the right fit for what they're looking for. So we kind of go through a dual interview process, and if they're unrealistic in timeline or they are, I don't take on a client unless I have time to fully devote to them and handle their issues right now. It's not like I backed up 30 days or 90 days. But if they're unrealistic in what their projections are and what their needs are, and then I would refer them to somebody else. But typically, we will, after the interview process, and we decide that we want to work together, we sign a letter of engagement. So we have the authority to represent them, not make decisions for them, but represent them in the process. They're pretty clear on how long this process is going to take and how easy or difficult it may be to find that product that they're looking for and the size they're looking for and the area that they're looking for. Sometimes we have to expand the geographical area to accommodate the tenant's needs, but they eventually are the end decision maker, not me. I just open the doors of opportunity to them, and then they either accept it or we continue to move on until we find exactly what they're looking for. And we complete about 50 transactions a year and have done so for the past 36 years. So when we take on a client, we're pretty well versed in what's happening in the marketplace. We know we're not just geared to one market like El Cajon or, Mission Valley. We work with our clients all over the state, all over the county, I should say, all over the state. And in some cases, we have a few national clients that we work outside of California.
That's great, David. We got a question through the chat offhand. I did from Joanna. She says, "What kind of technology do you use, if any, in the course of providing your services to clients? Is there anything that you use internally or externally, David?"
There are national search engines that we subscribe to. So that tells us what is in the marketplace. In addition, I'm on the broker list of all of the major companies here in San Diego, which are mostly listing companies. I'm not a listing company. We actually, in the representation with our business owner, we represent them to these agents who represent the properties. So, a lot of times people say, well, what do you have in, 12 square feet, in Miramar? And, basically I have to tell them I don't have anything. I find what you need, and I have the search engines to do it and the knowledge to find it. I also, as I was saying, I'm on the broker mailing list. So I get new updates, probably I get 15 to 20 a day.
Oh, wow.
So there are new listings coming on, and that's either maybe in the search engine, may not be in the search engine yet. So we become pretty knowledgeable on what's in the market. We know the right questions to ask. So if we run into a blank wall with one broker in one company, we may ask to talk to some of the other brokers in that company to fill the search. Plus, we will send out a broadband email to the brokerage community, tell them specifically what we're looking for and get their response back. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach.
That's great. This is from our cohort. We have one. Sunny, did you want? You can unmute. Do you want to just ask this question?
Sure. I was just wondering, how detailed is your search? Like when you have a new client, like to make sure that their position is the best location. Like, do you guys check the demographics? Do you check their average income? All that.
That stuff can be provided to them. Normally what we, the detail of search that we do is pretty exhaustive. We will, we'll find stuff that may not even be on the search engines yet. It may not even be listed. I have a 22-year relationship with most of the brokers in the city who are always in the process of finding, as I find new clients, they find new clients, but their clients are property owners, my clients are business owners. So it's a good mesh. So they'll tell me, I'm working with a landlord right now. I'm trying to get the listing. I don't have the listing yet. Say, well, let's put our heads together and let me help you get the listing, and you help my client get into that property. So we present options to our clients. It's not just we say, okay, here's one space that exists in all of San Diego that will fit your needs. We're very specific in trying to understand what they need. make sure that they're realistic about what they need, that the area they want to be in, we focus on that. We focus on price. And then when we go to negotiate on their behalf, we negotiate. Most people think that, well, the only thing that's important in negotiating a lease, because anybody can negotiate a lease. You can negotiate a lease for your apartment. You can negotiate a lease for commercial space. Price is not always the major factor. It is in my client's mind, so we sort of have to educate them. And we negotiate on 30 different items that financially affect them and in turn affect the lease. So price is one of them, but not the only one.
I like that. We have another question from the group. How have you have like, and this is probably a really good, I like this question actually. You have any tips? You always have any great tips on relationship development? It seems like it's kind of like key for like business owners in general, right? Startup owners, but especially in businesses like yours. You have some kind of tips on that, like how you've been building up some of these relationships?
Yeah, you know, it's like I attribute it almost to like advertising. You know, I speak to a lot of people who say, hey, you know, I ran an ad and I didn't get any response.
Got it.
You know, so I don't advertise anymore. I said, well, you know, that's obviously your choice. Relationships is not, as building relationships, not as going for the jugular. You know, can you tell me, Curling, do you need office space right now? And your answer is, no, I really don't. I'm working out of my house. I'm very happy. I have all these other relationships. I'm good. Say, okay, well, then I guess there's no sense in trying to become friends with you or help you in any way because you can't help me. And I think that attitude is prevalent today with a lot of people. Like I said, they go for the jugular and that's it. They don't want to know anything else. When I meet people, I don't, you know, I have my own company. It's a very small company. It's a company of one, and it was purposely designed that way. Because this way I don't have to deal with, you know, my boss. You know, if he doesn't like me, he's not going to. We have a symbiotic relationship. But when it comes to people, it's not a question of what can you do for me? I look at it more, how can I help you? I'm at a position now, you know, with my age, my experience, you know, that I can sort of sit back a little bit and say, how can I help you with sincerity? And that's what I'm interested in. And I have built relationships based on that. It's not, if you're building a relationship based on what can you do for me, it's not going to suffice long term. So yeah. I hope that is the question. If not, re-ask it again.
No, that was great, David. I think you hit on it. You know, one thing we always do say is like with the startups, we tell them when we're talking about customers that we only want 10 customers that love you, Dave, versus having 100 that kind of like you or kind of right. I know that's always like something that you have people that really the fact they love, like talk to David. He's always helpful. That's great. I think it's interesting. We got another question. It actually says a lot of startups begin with just one person, right? And startups, they call that solopreneur. What have you learned over your years as a one-person company? It's kind of take off what you were saying, right? What have you learned by that?
For me, it works well because, you know, you don't have meetings that are disruptive to your schedule. You do your own scheduling. I find that it's more productive that way. But companies that are in growth mode, will typically say, well, you know, by the end of the year, I'll have 15 employees. So I need to plan for 15 employees today, because by the end of the year, that's where I'm going to be. And my question to them is, well, what if you're not? You know, then what do you do with all the space? It hurts me to see somebody sitting in empty space. It always rubbed me the wrong way. And you can always tell when you walk into somebody's office, when half the offices are more dark, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So my advice to them is, based on the growth pattern, we can negotiate in the lease that if they need to expand and the landlord doesn't have the space for them to expand, then we can cancel the lease without penalty.
That's good.
Understand about our clients' needs going forward, especially with startups, the better we can help them control what they're going to learn is the most important thing in being in business, and that's the bottom line. And if the bottom line is black and not red, that's a very good sign.
That's a good sign. Stephen, do you have any final thoughts, final questions for David?
No, I think this is awesome. I'm definitely learning a lot from you, David, from your responses. Right, real estate isn't my forte. I'm more in the tech space, and so this is really cool. So thanks for coming on.
It's my pleasure. I'll leave everybody with one note. And as an ex-landlord, I could say this, but if you decide to negotiate yourself, understand the movie that's playing out in that person's mind, whether it be a vendor, a landlord, or what have you. And typically the advice that I have operated on in my years of negotiation is that whatever the opposition wants, you don't want it, even if you do want it. And I'll leave you with that thought.
Oh, no, I like that. I'm happy to have one more thought, David, on the fact that you do have other programs. You have I think on Tuesday you have a thing that people can be involved with. Can you talk a little bit about the other things that people get involved with to staying connected with you?
We have an elite networking group that, again, is motivated to help the people within the group grow their business. You can email me at David@SchmidtHappens, or email Stephen. He'll give you my information. If you want to look up my website, it's www.schmidthappens.com. If you ever need to get a hold of me, just Google Schmidt Happens and you'll find me somehow.
We'll also put it in the video in the actual little comment extra. We'll have it all there for everyone to actually see it. It'll be up on YouTube tomorrow. But David, always really good talking to you. I just want to make it informal. And you have so much knowledge. I feel like we'll do a part 2 because you have probably about a few series of stories that you always tell me.
If any of your people are interested in just picking my brain, this is kind of my give back to the community. They can email me, text me, call me. I'm happy, even if it's not real estate, to put them with the right person that can help them with their needs beyond real estate. So I'm happy to do that.
No, that's great. That's great, David. And you've always been a big supporter for us. So definitely appreciate that.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it, Curling.
Stephen, you want to wrap it up, and then we'll end up there.
Sure. All right, guys. So for those of you that are still on and made it to the end, thanks for making it all this way. If you guys have, like David said, if you guys have questions, you guys can leave them in the comment section, on the video on YouTube if you guys are watching it there. And then we'll put his email in the description as well. So if you need to get a hold of him, and then we'll put our email there as well. So you guys can always contact us with questions and, things that we can either try to answer internally or shoot on to David or whatever. So thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.